Hey gamers, we're back with another episode of Let's Create a Competitive Card Game. In this episode, we'll be coming up with the effects for the first few skill cards. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so last episode we finished up the effects for the talent cards. We came up with the effects for the guild specific talent cards. And instead of going over the effects and the art descriptions in this episode, what I'll do is towards the top of this episode, I'll put a link up here for the last episode. That way, if you want to see what the effects that we came up with for the talent cards were or the art description, you can just click that link and be taken to that episode. So yeah, before we get started, what is the difference between skill and talent cards? So skill cards are cards that you can use on your turn or your opponent's turn, and you can use them to respond to your opponent's card effects, your opponent's game actions, etc. Now, talent cards, on the other hand, are cards that you can only use on your turn. Therefore, you can only respond to an opponent's card or effect with a talent card if you are the turn player or if you have initiative. So that being said, skill cards are just essentially better talent cards, and because of that, a skill and talent card with the same effect, the skill card version will cost more resources as it can be used on either player's turn, whereas the talent card can only be used to respond on your turn. So yeah, with that out the way, let's go ahead and jump into the skill card effects. So again, these are just the universal skill card effects. And the first effect that I came up with was each player loses 3 life for each card they control. Now, I came up with this effect, or the idea for this effect, when I was thinking about some of the other card games I've played. There's something called a Weenie Rush, which is just you flood the play area with as many small creatures as you can and try to overwhelm your opponent with numbers as opposed to a smaller amount of stronger cards. An example is a game like, say, The Spoils, where you'd have a card that costs 1 resource and only has 1 attack. And if you're sitting on, say, I don't know, 20 resources, you could bring out 20 of those smaller cards with only 1 attack. And then you could play a card like, say, Strength in Numbers, which in The Spoils, what that did is you add up the total numbers of attackers, and all attackers get a plus to their attack for the total number. So if you had 20 small little creatures, they'd all get plus 20 attack when attacking. So yeah, that's a lot of damage on the table. So this is just a way to kind of punish players for trying to rush. It doesn't prevent rushing, and I'm not against rushing. This is just a way to give opponents an option to kind of play against that playstyle. Now, the art description which I gave the artist was that I wanted a fancy estate that's on fire with some distressed owners. And I did tell her that she didn't have to include the distressed owners in the image. She could put whatever she wanted. I just wanted an estate on fire. So yeah, so the next effect is, and actually the next few effects are sort of the generic destroy a card effect that essentially every card game has. So the first one of those is destroy target card. So obviously if a card cannot be targeted, then this effect would not do anything to that card. And the art description I gave her was just someone punching a hole into a mountain range. And I just got that idea from watching One Punch Man. So yeah, it's a pretty, I think it's a pretty simple art description, and I am excited to see kind of what she'll draw for that. So the next destroy effect is to destroy a target relic. So now the destroy target card is just overall better than destroy target relic, as target card is any card and target relic is specific to a relic. And the art description which I gave her was it should just be a relic being destroyed in some way. And I told her that a relic in this world is sort of an item. Now there can be people in this world which are relics, but a relic is generally some type of item. So yeah, I just told her it should just be some item being destroyed in some type of way. That is pretty uh, that is really left up to her artistic vision on that. And the last destroy effect, or the next one, is just to destroy a target follower. And again, destroy target card is just better, but this just gives you, with card limitations, you can gear towards destroying followers, relics, whatever you want. And this art description is exactly the same as the last one, with the exception of being a relic being destroyed. It should be a character who is being destroyed. So moving on, the next skill is when an opponent uses an effect of a card already in play, you can void that card and your opponent cannot respond to this card. So this is a very, very powerful card. And in general, within this game, there will not be too many cards that void other cards. And again, what void means is you essentially negate that card's effect. It still counts as being used, therefore it is still sent to the discard pile. So yeah, as for the art description, I'm honestly not sure what I wanted, and I told her I wanted her to maybe hold off on this instead of doing something that she pictures, as I do want to come up with a art description for this. And the next skill is also very similar to the previous one, with the exception that when your opponent plays a card, you can void that card and your opponent cannot respond to this card. So that whole your opponent may not respond to this card is what makes these two skills extremely, extremely powerful. The difference, I know the effects sound the same, but the only difference is this one here is when they use an effect that's of a card that's already in play. So if they have a relic in play or they have a character in play where they have to kind of activate the effect to use it, you can void that card. And the unique thing about this is that you cannot respond to this card here, the one that voids an effect already in play, with the effect that voids a card that is being played, as they both say that they cannot be responded to. So these two card effects will always go off and they are guaranteed voids. So these cards will probably have a very high resource cost. And again, I'm not too sure about the art description for this card. So moving on, the next skill effect that I came up with was this card cannot be destroyed or targeted. Your opponent cannot attack. Let me read this again. This card cannot be destroyed or targeted. Your opponent cannot attack. Okay, so yeah, that is the effect. So this card is actually making use of the lasting mechanic, which is this card stays in play for a certain amount of turns and then it is automatically sent to the discard pile. So yeah, that is actually the full effect. It seemed a little bit too simple when I just read it again. But essentially this card prevents your opponent from attacking for 4 turns always. When you play this card, your opponent cannot attack for 4 turns. This card cannot be destroyed or targeted, so the only way to get rid of this card is by using a mass effect card. So either a mass, and actually a mass destroy effect wouldn't even get rid of this card. You would have to use a mass bounce effect. So really only someone from the Mind Guild could get rid of this card by sort of returning it to the hand with a mass return or mass bounce effect. So the art description that I had for this card was that I wanted maybe 4 floating masses or mountains with bridges and stairs between them. And I actually did come up with some flavor text for this card. I didn't actually put it in here, but the flavor text is, no matter how fast you go, it always takes 4 days to reach the top. And that just kind of ties in with the whole this card cannot be destroyed or targeted. So the last effect for the final skill card, or the final skill card's effect, is that it destroys all non-followers on the field. And this should really say in play. So when I've been coming up with these card effects, I've kind of been bouncing between on the field And I really shouldn't say on the field. That's from other card games, and I play so many different ones, so I've kind of gotten used to on the field. So it should really say in play. And something else that you may see in some of the previous effects is in the now. So I wanted to use the now to kind of be different, but I think to get other card game players interested, or to get them playing this game more easily, it'll be better to keep the wording of some effects very similar to other card games, or essentially all the other card games. So I'll instead say destroy all non-followers in play. So yeah, this is a mass destroy effect for anybody who's running, say, a relic heavy or a companion heavy deck. Now, there are current rules that say you can only have one companion. Actually, I don't think I put that you can only have one companion in play, but that is the idea. And there will be maybe some classes that allow you to play all companions or to play all relics. So this is maybe a little bit ahead of its time for its effect. And the art description for this effect was that I wanted meteors falling from the sky, impacting a scenic view of a valley surrounded by mountains. So, and maybe I should say, maybe there's some relics there or some people there, and the meteors are just destroying everything. But yeah, these are all the skill effects for the universal skill cards. If you like these episodes, be sure to like, subscribe, and all of that other good stuff. Thanks.